Every morning, the countdown begins for the markets with meticulous research and analysis designed to help you capitalize on the trading day. Beaming live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studio.
Good morning. You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Bazaar Morning Call. We are coming to you live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios. Well, rains are here. It's overcast. It's cloudy. It's actually a beautiful morning. Earlier the better, as they say, especially on Monday mornings like this one. Guys, good morning.
Hi, morning. Absolutely a beautiful monsoon morning, and it's the earliest onset, I believe, in Maharashtra ever on record.
Yeah.
Because they've come in well ahead of expectations, and yeah, I think we've got some visuals. Maybe we'll also put them up. But yeah, hoping that the good times last. Lots to keep us busy in the markets, the tweets, the developments over the weekend.
Well, beautiful weather, but just stay safe out there. And I think we've got a market to deal with. So, Prashant, let's get straight to that.
Absolutely. And, before I go any further, U.S. markets are shut today. There is no U.S. In that sense, we are going to be sort of trading off the cues which comes our way from everywhere else. But no U.S. In that sense. Cash markets are shut for Memorial Day. So that's point number one. Now, on Friday, and the graphics will start to come up, the Nasdaq was down 1% and the dollar index was down about 1% as well. Actually, there are only two things of consequence which happened on Friday in terms of price action. Equities sold off, there was a bit of a risk off, and the dollar index was down meaningfully as well. And we are now closer to 99 than we are to 100. Otherwise, I mean, yields, oil, everything else was neither here nor there. These were the two clear signals in that sense. Now, I'm just going to focus, as we did and as we often do on Monday mornings, as we look ahead into the week, just two themes. First is kind of a repetition of what I said exactly Monday last week. Has the good news on tariffs peaked? That is one. Second, will long-end bond yields continue to rise? It's happening in the US, it's happening in Japan, it's happening in the UK as well. Let's just spend a minute each on both these themes. Has the good news on tariffs peaked, right? That's the first one. Now, I think we got the answer. Trump on Friday evening, our time, recommended a 50% tariff on EU as soon as the 1st of June if trade negotiations failed. Now, it's very unlikely that you essentially will have 50% tariffs which actually go into effect at that rate of 50%. But it told us two things. One, the Trump team is very frustrated with the pace at which things are going. And second, tariffs are still the number one go-to tool to try and force the change that the Trump team really wants to get done. Now, after the Trump comment, the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent came out and said, hope Trump's threat would light a fire under the EU. It's arguable if you want to put it that way, but it did sort of elicit a response. So the EU chief came out and said that Europe, and this was on Sunday, by the way, just yesterday, Europe is ready to advance stocks swiftly and decisively. But then she also kind of said that we need at least until the 9th of July. June isn't going to be possible to get a good deal. In her words, she said that we need at least till the 9th of July. And Trump has responded. And he's kind of put out a social media post saying that he's very pleased. He had a call and he's agreed to extend the 50% tariff deadline on EU to the 9th of July. So, 3 tweets, and I think it's pretty clear. I'm not sure if Trump has got what he wanted, but at least he's got their ears, standing and sort of listening intently. So, I hope possibly the pace of tariff negotiations with the EU will pick up. Now, the other piece of news was Trump threatening to impose 25% tariffs on Apple. And then I think he threw in, for good measure, Samsung there as well. If iPhones in the case of Apple were not made in the US, he's sort of spoken about this, that what you sell in the US needs to be made in the US in the context of iPhones. And now he's, of course, backing it up with this threat of 25% tariffs. Now, again, very, very unlikely he actually goes through with this. But it again kind of shows you and takes you back from, if you're in the markets, has the question, I think, has been answered in the positive that perhaps the good news on tariffs, right? I mean, things are going fast, etc. Perhaps that news flow has peaked a little bit. Now, the second point, of course, is will long-end bond yields continue to rise? And here, just a couple of points. There is, of course, as I said, if you look at the US 30-year, which is 5%, north of 5%, if you look at the UK 30-year, you look at the Japanese very long-end bond yields everything is slowly gathering pace. They're all pushing higher and looks like, I mean, it's a combination of two things, especially in the US, lack of demand for bonds. And the second, of course, is supply. Supply seems to be coming, and more supply is coming if you just look at that bill which was passed, that spending bill which was passed. Question, of course, is will a breakout in yields hurt stocks? It naturally should in terms of valuations, etc. This week will be important to see if buyers really turn up in big numbers because there is $183 billion worth of supply. Auctions are scheduled on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The Thursday auction will be closely watched because that's a 7-year bond that the Treasury in the US is trying to sell. So these are the two big kind of items, I think, from a global perspective, which will keep us busy, and we'll have to keep this in mind. Now, just to tie in the levels here on the Nifty, we, of course, on Friday came up very, very sharply and recouped many of the losses. Last week was kind of flattish, which was a good outcome because the week before was extremely good. So you had a very good week, and then you had an okay kind of a week, which is absolutely acceptable. Resistance for the Nifty is 25,116. It's not a new level, it's a swing high. Support stands at 24,462. That's on the downside. Nifty Bank also bounced, by the way, almost exactly from the 20-day moving average on Friday. Here the resistance stands at 55,695 and the support stands at about 54,576. Still in a bit of a range. We'll have to see if there is enough in the tank for the market to continue the breakout that we saw on Friday's session. GIFT Nifty will give you a quick sense of how we are likely to start. About 70 points higher on the GIFT Nifty this morning. Surabhi.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been an absolutely chaotic, I guess, last couple of days, right, with respect to those tweets. And the tweets have been not simple and straightforward as well. They never are when it's Mr. Donald Trump. So he starts out by talking about the EU, and that kind of caught the market by surprise. Remember, I mean, US markets obviously ended negative for the week and on Friday as well. He starts out by saying that the EU has been very difficult to deal with. Our discussions with them are going nowhere. And this coupled with the tweet on Apple as well. And that really, the market was not taking too well to that. And then the reversal that's led to a little bit of a relief. By the way, on Friday, the EU market sold off between 1% and 2% because of these tweets. Not just that, auto stocks in the EU on Friday sold off big time. The auto index was down 3% because of this 50% tariff threat. Now it's been pulled back. On Apple as well, I just want to highlight this because it's telling. Why is the market selling off? Because it's telling the language that's being used. He says, I long ago informed Tim Cook of Apple that I expect iPhones will be sold in the US, will be manufactured and built in the US, not in India or any place else. And then he goes on to, of course, give the threat of this 25% tariff. So all of this has been keeping markets on the edge. This morning, the picture across Asia is a little mixed as well. Some markets like Japan are actually doing well. The mainland Chinese market is also up, but Hong Kong is down. So the picture is not uniform is a short point. Nikkei about 0.5% higher, mainland China about 0.25% higher. Hang Seng is slightly lower. On Japan, more trade talk and tariff talk coming through. And it seems that there is progress with the Japanese because the Japanese PM, Ishiba, yesterday was speaking to the press. And he said that he's seeing progress in the trade negotiations with the US. And he's saying Tokyo is aiming to advance the talks with the US. And they're talking about a lot of areas of possible cooperation, including shipbuilding, repairing US warships, trade routes across the Arctic, and so on and so forth. Not just that, the Japanese market is also up because now this whole US Steel, Nippon Steel merger has finally got the Trump administration's blessing. Donald Trump tweeted on this as well, and he said that US Steel is entering a planned partnership. He's no longer calling it an out-and-out sale or merger. And he's saying the headquarters will remain in Pittsburgh. It'll add, XYZ number of jobs to the US, to the US and the economy. So that's been a talking point. Watch out for geopolitics, and the headlines out of Ukraine are not good at all. It's the largest ever drone strike we've seen on record since the war began in 2022. A total of 367 drones as well as missiles, 13 people dead, including 3 children. So very, very troublesome over there. And again, Donald Trump has tweeted on this as well. The reason I'm highlighting is that all of this is, going to be there for the market to digest. He's saying that Putin has gone, quote unquote, absolutely crazy. And that's one tweet that's come in. He's saying he's needlessly killing a lot of people, not just soldiers. Missiles and drones are being shot into cities in Ukraine for no reason whatsoever. Putin has always said that he wants all of Ukraine, not a piece of it. And if that happens, it will lead to the quote-unquote downfall of Russia. Then he goes on to say that Zelensky is not doing his country any favor as well, and it's causing a lot of problems. I don't like it, etc., etc. He ends this particular post by basically blaming the Biden administration is saying that this is Zelensky's war, Putin's war, and Biden's war. It's not the Trump administration's war. So anyway, all of that is going to be on the market's radar. Lots and lots of global news flow. Coming to the domestic cues as well, consolidation week all through last week. The bias was negative, but Friday we saw a perk up and the flows on Friday have been positive. So let's just look at the flows. Foreign investors were again net buyers on Friday. They bought cash market equities worth almost 1,800 crores. That was a good point. Domestic institutions also, small net buy figure of about 300 crores coming in. The RBI dividend news, by the way, is out. And as Sapna was indicating to us on Friday, the dividend is not as high as what the street expectations were. It's not over 3 lakh or 3.5 lakh crores. It's a far more modest. 2.69 lakh crore rupees that the government will get. Monsoon progress we have already discussed, so it's good news coming in. It's ahead of schedule, already hit Goa, obviously Kerala, and also Maharashtra. Finally, I'll end with some specific, market-specific stocks and news action. There's a lot of IPO buzz today. Watch out for this. 2 new issues are opening. Leela Hotels IPO. And these are all the Leela properties, X of the Mumbai property, which is HLV Ventures. This is a 2,500 crore rupee fresh issue, 1,000 crores of OFS. Could be interesting. There's a large private equity investor that's backing this entity, Leela Hotels. And then there is AG's Vopak Terminals, and this is a fresh issue of 2,800 crores. It's a subsidiary of the listed AG's Logistics. So IPO action will keep us busy. So will legal action. I know Nigel is going to be keeping a very close eye on JSW Steel because aside of the numbers, there are 2 separate cases. There's one in the Supreme Court and one in the NCLT. As this matter goes, the singles are directing or are pleading that the NCLT should direct the liquidation order that was given by the Supreme Court. JSW Steel is going to the Supreme Court against this, liquidation. So let's see how this plays out. This is a hot story and promises to be fairly lively today as well. Nigel.
Well, for today, the big question is, will the domestic money be strong enough or are they in a great mood to actually take the markets higher? Because we have 2 big equity markets that are actually shut. The US markets because of Memorial Day and the UK markets as well are shut today because the Spring Bank holiday is what we have out there. So foreign participation could possibly be relatively lower. Can the domestic money push the markets up? Well, we'll know later today. What about the FIs? What did they do in the index futures? Well, they added equivalent amount of longs as well as shorts. They continue to remain net short with close to around 67% of their positions on the short side. And if you look at it in absolute terms, the FIs, they are net short with close to around 50,000 contracts on the short side, while the clients, they are net long with close to around 50,000 contracts on the long side. So both of them at opposite ends, as we've been telling. Moving to the options data, then that's pretty interesting actually out there because there is signs that the call writing is continuing. The 24,900 call, well, that was fairly active in Friday's trading session. So good amount of open interest addition out there. The 24,950 call as well, fairly active. On the downside, though, there was some put writing that did creep back in there. So you had the 24,800 put that did see some writing. So these writers, they'll be hoping that the 24,600 odd mark does hold out. But given the kind of call writing that we have seen, I've been talking about this reference point on the upside. 25,125, that's the important resistance mark. The bears will want to defend that particular mark. But what was encouraging in Friday's trading session is, for the last 6 trading sessions, we were making lower highs. However, that trend broke because in Friday's trading session, we made a higher high after quite a few trading sessions, which is encouraging. Which brings us to the levels. As I mentioned, the high that you're looking at is at around, you want to break this mark, 25,150. That's a resistance level. On the downside, last week's low becomes a bit of a resistance mark. You have the 20 DMA as well in this vicinity. For the Nifty Bank, the important mark is around this 56,000 odd mark. In the last 45 days or so, we have gone there numerous times, but we've not been able to conquer that. The fresh leg for the market moving up starts once we decisively conquer this mark. Stocks that I'm looking at is we have Trump's tweets with regard to UK and the duty is out there. It seems he's going a little bit easy for now. Normally we see that, Tata Motors is a stock that normally reacts to there because you have the Defender, the Discovery, both of them, they are, they're manufactured in EU itself. So I'll keep an eye out on Tata Motors because of what Trump had to say with regard to the EU. So that's a stock to track for the day.
All right, Nigel, thanks very much for that. So that's the setup as we see it.